Come dance with me, baby, in the summer rain. I remember the rain on our skin.
This might look like a music or dance class, but it's not. Welcome to Susie Urbaniak's very unconventional science lesson. She calls this the plate tectonic dance and reckons her students are infinitely more likely to remember her message and her moves this way than if she just wrote them down simply on a whiteboard.
Do I do it?
Oh God, Susie. What just happened?
Simulation of major tectonic events at plate boundaries and faulting. So it's all those major earth science concepts coming to life in the form of dance. Dextral and sinistral faulting, normal faulting, reverse faulting.
Normal faulting, reverse faulting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And
I didn't learn that in my textbook at school. Do you reckon you learn more and pay more attention in this class or other classes?
This class. Okay, you ready, rock and roll? Yeah, light matches. Go. Turn on, turn lights off. Lights off.
At her public school in Western Australia, Susie is a one-woman whirlwind wanting to blow up the Australian education system.
Sometimes these bowls have the capacity to actually just break and it goes everywhere.
Fed up with a restrictive, overloaded and often irrelevant curriculum, she's created her own teaching program focusing on real-world problem solving.
And that's the explosive magma that you get.
How much more do your students' eyes light up when you boil some lava or blow something up as opposed to just tossing a textbook in front of them?
Oh, gosh, I haven't used a textbook in 14 years. I wouldn't know.
Do you think some people look at you and say, Ms. Urbaniak, she's a bit crazy?
Yep. No, they've told me that.
All right, that's the big bang.
That's the big bang.
Susie began her working life as a geologist, but after several years,
Kids, come on.
switched to teaching, trying to bring to others
That gas.
the practical skills that she feels her education lacked.
What I did recognise was that after 30 years of not being in a classroom, nothing had changed.
Is rote learning and doing tests fun for the average kid?
No. No. It's a lot of stress.
It's only focusing on numeracy and literacy. There's so much more to education than those two facets, and we're doing such a disservice to students by creating this pressure and almost creating this illusion that literacy and numeracy is the only valid subjects in school.
Mum Jill Francis says the curriculum needs to cater to a wider degree of children and interests, not just encouraging kids who are good at acing literacy and numeracy tests, like NAPLAN. Her son Yuri has been diagnosed with autism and sat his first NAPLAN test last year, and she believes his underwhelming performance there proves the assessments aren't reflective of a child's true talents.
The interesting thing with your son, sat NAPLAN, how would you say he went? Average?
Yeah, he probably went average. Average is a good way to put it.
And then some other independent testing.
He was off the chart. He was...
Genius level.
Yes, phenomenal. So obviously in the conditions of NAPLAN, he was average, but in the one-on-one testing, he came out, phenomenally. So, at least double his age in his reading.
Almost looks like one of those rainbow birthday cakes.
Jill says the fact she rarely, if ever, gets an artwork brought home by one of her children is proof that there's no room for creativity in the classroom these days.
Are you going to make it any more?
I think it can absolutely be soul-destroying because those kids who are into creative arts, they're the game changers of the future. We live in this digital age that needs students to think outside the square. We need those students to be able to see things differently.
The call to remove NAPLAN entirely is stronger than ever before. Principals, politicians and academics are pushing for it to be scrapped, and the Teachers' Union has also called for a major overhaul of the federal system. But the former Federal Education Minister, Simon Birmingham, isn't fazed.
My view is that anybody, whether it's a state minister, a teacher, a parent, a media commentator, needs to keep NAPLAN in perspective.
But isn't it the schools, in a lot of instances, that are building it up to be perhaps more than it needs to be?
Look, my view is that NAPLAN is simply a test of the basics.
This is the issue that a lot of parents have, that schools are focusing so many resources and so much interest into getting NAPLAN right that the rest of the curriculum falls by the wayside.
Well, look, I hear that sometimes, but it's 4 times during the 13 years of a child's education. So how is it that in the years that a child's not undertaking NAPLAN, it becomes such a focus? I don't think it is. And so we're about to go to school. Brooks High School. Brooks High.
Senator Birmingham believes Australia's sliding standing in international education rankings isn't cause for alarm, but concedes changes are being made to the system in the wake of widespread criticism.
Surely Australia's education system should be performing better than Lithuania, than Mexico, than Kazakhstan. Aren't alarm bells going off?
There are many different reports. Each of them use different benchmarks and measures, but we absolutely acknowledge the performance has not been satisfactory in terms of getting the return on investment, the growth in achievement that people would expect in Australian schools. That's why we want to see changes.
I'm tired of being called light brown because I am neither. I am beige.
In the meantime, our education system continues to see an exodus of caring and committed teachers like Gabby Stroud. A loss for our schools, and consequently, our children are the ones losing out the most.
We've got to value our teachers. We've got to look after them. We've got to treat them as though they are a precious, precious resource because they're looking after our precious, precious children and teaching them. And until we start taking all of that a whole lot more seriously, I think we're going to see continual decline in every area of Australian education.